You might be thinking,
International clients don't trust me because of speed, pricing, or features.
but what if I were to tell you that it's the language you're using that's doing the real damage? As a professional translator, I can tell you now that the number one reason why international clients don't trust you is because
the language you're using sounds like it was written by a machine.
not a human. Here's what you might know. Cultural accuracy in translation isn't just about using the right words. It's about knowing how things like tone, idioms and style land in each market. Because in sectors like legal, medical and pharmaceuticals, trust is currency, and stiff robotic language can ruin everything. Now, if you're preparing for lunch or you are updating documents such as instructions for use, I offer a free strategy call to check if your current materials build trust or raise red flags. Together, we'll go through everything and see what needs to be done. So if you want to protect your brand's reputation, my email address is below. So the first mistake you need to be aware of is using overly formal language. Now this could be described as using the incorrect tone or register. In other words, you think that the language you're using sounds professional, when in reality it comes across as either too complicated or too formal for no real reason. Now, since I specialise in medical content, I'm going to use an example sentence you might read when dealing with medical devices instructions for use. So you might see the sentence, utilisation of said equipment must adhere to the stated conditions. As I mentioned, this is just too complicated and too formal for no real reason. So a better way to say this would be, use this equipment only as described. It's much simpler and therefore it builds trust, particularly in healthcare. It's important to remember that most people that you'll be selling to don't know what you know or think in the way that you think. So it's best to try and keep everything as simple and as straightforward as possible. The next mistake is direct translations of idioms. And for this, we're going to stick with the theme of medical content. And the first one is under the weather, meaning to feel slightly unwell or you're not in good health. Now, a literal translation of this would be faoin amsir. For example, nuair atá tú faoin amsir. Now, this could be misunderstood as when you're about the weather. Now, people will probably be able to deduce what you mean by it, but nonetheless, it doesn't sound natural. So for that to happen, it should read as something like nuair atá tú ar fáinniú, when you're not well, or nuair nach bhfuil tú agad hain, when you're not at yourself, which is something we actually say in Hiberno English. And the next idiom is if you have a frog in your throat, meaning that you have difficulty speaking due to a sore throat. A direct translation would read as Ma tá frog I do scornach agad, when it should read as Ma tá sca I do scornach, if a thorn is in your throat. And the last idiom is if you run a fever, meaning to have a high body temperature. Literally, this would translate as Ma richen tú fevris, when it should read as Ma tá fevris ort, if a fever or temperature is on you, or Ma tá chas on it, if heat or temperature is in you. So these idioms sound fine in English, but as you can see in Irish, you need to be careful not to mistranslate them, or you could risk people just flat out ignoring you or questioning your credibility on how seriously you're taking things. And the final mistake is using a one-size-fits-all dialect. For example, countries like England, America and Australia are all officially English speaking, but they don't speak in the same way. Therefore, the English needs to be localized, meaning that the language that goes along with your content or your service needs to be adapted to a specific locale or market, making it suitable for a particular culture and geographic region. So if your product materials or the content that accompanies your services are meant for global clients, don't leave trust to chance. Book a strategy call and we'll pinpoint where your message might be getting lost. If you've ever considered running your materials through ChatGPT, Google or DeepL, you need to be aware of the dangers. So make sure you watch both of these videos that show how translation mistakes can sabotage your contracts and how said mistakes can end up costing you an absolute fortune. Don't be stupid and educate yourself on the mistakes that others have already made so that you can avoid them.